Hello, this is Lee Davis welcoming you back to part two of Doctor Who, William Hartnell to Ncuti Gatwa. As you notice, if you look on the live stream, you'll notice two videos on there. Disregard them. What happened was they crashed. So I decided to abandon the live stream idea on this. Otherwise, I would have just done the whole lot. But I'm doing it in 4 stages. So I'm on part two now. I've reached Colin Baker era, so now I'm going to carry on from here. So we start off with 1984. Colin Baker takes over. The emphasis of how he got the job was sort of a bit of a mystery. Well, it's not really much of a mystery. Apparently JNT went to this party that Colin Baker and his wife were invited to, and JNT was obviously looking for another Doctor Who to replace Peter Davison, and Colin Baker started to mingle and do his jokes and chats and stuff like that. People were laughing. JNT loved him and says, right, there's my Doctor. He made everyone laugh at the party. I've got to hold my hands up and say, if that's all you need to do to get a job, a big job on BBC, make someone laugh. Unbelievable. But anyway, that's how he got it. And obviously Eric Saward wanted consultation on this. He was a script editor at the time, and he didn't. He never ever gave Colin Baker a chance. He says, "Look, you had William Hartnell, who was a distinguished actor. You had Patrick Troughton, who was full of charisma and was a distinguished actor. You had John Pertwee, who was more comedic, but could do both serious acting and comedic acting, and he was full of charisma, as you saw when he did his stint as the Doctor. And obviously Tom Baker had bags of it, so there you have it. But Peter Davison, he reserved for, he was a good professional actor. But when he came to Colin Baker, he said he's not right for the role. You just can't give you can't give an actor on the basis of a main central character in a big production at BBC the job on the basis of making people laugh at the party. That's how he saw it, and he decided, you know, he wasn't going to show any cooperation. He never actually chatted to Colin Baker. Colin asked him what he thought was the best, you know, to get some sort of vibe off it, but Eric Saward was more standoffish. He was sort of trying to look busy all the time. Anyway, never mind all that. So Colin Baker gets a job, and already he's got big problems. Firstly, the production comes straight after the case of Androzani. As you know, the case of Androzani, it was a classic. Peter Davison bows out. It was a great adventure all the way through, written by Robert Holmes, and it was the biggest death count that I could ever remember. But it was a great story, and it was a pity really, because Nicola Bryant, who played Perry, could have had a good partnership there with Peter, but Peter decided to leave after a disastrous second season. He said the third season will be my last, because I also mentioned earlier that he bumped into Patrick Troughton in the car park while they were doing the Five Doctors, and Patrick says, if you don't get out after 3 years, you could be stereotyped. So look at Tom Baker. He had trouble getting a job after a year, but eventually he started to get his parts again, you know, because he was seen as a doctor. And there wasn't many parts around that time for someone that's played Doctor Who. So anyway, so Peter decided that is the best thing to do, and he did it for his career, that is. But anyway, Colin Baker takes over. Not a good start. It was even worse when he did Breakfast Television, and Frank Boff, who's one of the presenters, asked him, he says, how long do you fancy breaking Tom Baker's record? And Colin says, well, I wouldn't mind being there that long. I wouldn't mind being Doctor Who for that long. Not so many words, but the viewers got the impression that he wanted to beat Tom Baker's record. It was a horrible question. Frank Boff was deliberate in that question as well, and I don't think he should have asked it, because I mean, he's only just starting the bloody show, for God's sake. 7 bloody years time, maybe asking it. I'll guarantee you Frank Boff never lasted 7 years at Breakfast TV. He was sacked. Something to do with cocaine binges and stuff like that. So anyway, there you go. So anyway, Colin Baker took the role. He didn't have a good start. He was given stupid costume to wear, which undermined him as an actor, undermined his character. He also tried to strangle his assistant, Perry. You know, you just felt it was going from worse to worse, and it was a terrible story to start off with. Does it hold up? I don't think it does. It had rubber monsters. They had this big slug. It was obvious it was a rubber rubber suit, played by Edwin Richfield, who was in that suit. He played obviously he was in he had a main part in the Sea Devils. He played an admiral or something. He started shooting at that gun from the lifeboat or something. I don't know. He had this massive gun. No, he got out of it, and then they had this gun where they're shooting Sea Devils. Boom, 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 and he enjoyed it, but he had to be supervised. But yeah, anyway, that's Edwin Richfield. He was in the suit of that that slug creature, whatever, Nestor or whatever he's called, I think it was. Anyway, so it was a bad start. It was a bad start. I felt sorry for Colin because the script was crap as well. He also had supporting. There wasn't much supporting. I mean, those alien creatures with silly antennae on their head and grey silver faces. They didn't look like a menacing type of alien race to me. They looked like a cringy bunch of I don't know, cowering sort of well, a laughable joke really. You just couldn't take them seriously. And so at the end of the day, Colin did his adventure straight off the back of Caves of Androzani, and then he had that line, a horrible line. I think he regrets saying it now. He says, "I am the Doctor, whether you like it or not." And unfortunately, mate, the audience says not, and that's not his fault. That was the editor, script editor. That was JNT, who's showrunner. It's down to them, and JNT should be blamed for getting that costume, because that costume, I mean, who would want to wear a costume like that? Never mind it was the 1980s. For God's sake, you're trying to sell a programme. How can you be taken seriously wearing that? It was a bad idea. Even Colin Baker didn't want to wear it, but he was grateful for the job, so he had no choice. He could have argued the case and says, "I'm not wearing it," and he could have left JNT backing down. I think he should have pushed the emphasis on that one. I think he should have pushed the point, because if he had said, "No, I'm not wearing it, I want black," he should have done it, and that would have set him up a lot better, I can assure you. But anyway, the coat was chosen. He took it, and obviously the story itself wasn't very good, and it wasn't a good start. And then the next time we get to see him would be the Attack of the Cybermen, which is a year later, roughly. That was not a bad story. Colin did show signs that he was taking control of the role, but I think it was too late by then. I think the audiences were lost. They just didn't like Colin Baker, really, due to the way he was projecting the Doctor. So anyway, he does it by 1985. It was decided by the BBC, Michael Grade and Jonathan Powell, that they're going to shut him down. It's all over. JNT, who created the hiatus, well, should I say the backlash against it by getting all his troops into the front line, Ian Levine and people like that, Gary Crowley, all in the PR machine, really to fight back to change the BBC's decision. Obviously, the BBC didn't realise they completely misjudged the mood of the viewer, and there was a lot of people writing in showing their disgust why they should finish a great institutional programme like this that's been going that's virtually as long as Coronation Street at that time. Anyway, so that was that really. Unfortunately, it was only a state of execution, wasn't it? Because in a couple of years' time, another 12 episodes' time, because they had to do the trial of Time Lord, which Eric Sayward said it really was a trial of the programme, which I could well believe. Most of the budget was spent on that bloody arc in space thing, apparently this is where the Doctor's going to be tried. Very great special effects, but the problem with that is it ran into too much money. And it wasn't worth doing. You could have got more episodes to have more money spent on them. Anyway, the one that I liked particularly from that was Terror of the Vervoids. It was a sort of traditional Doctor Who. It was a bit of a there was tension with monsters, plant monsters running loose on the ship itself. The Doctor and Perry. No, it's not. Sorry, Mel, because Perry. Now, this is what I didn't like. I was going to get back to that. Perry was killed off, apparently. She'd been turned, well, this slug creature that was dying wanted to be transported into her, well, successfully, I presume. And then she had her head shaved, and she gets up, and King Karanos or whatever is played by Brian Blessed, shoots her. And apparently it was a setup by the Time Lords, but you know, it was all the Doctor has been manoeuvred into situations. This is to discredit him. Obviously, she didn't die. Perry didn't know about this. Well, Nicola didn't know that this was her fate. She didn't even watch it. She just left the show, and that was that. But when she discovered what happened to her, she married the King, Kronos, and Brian Blessed. Godfather, spare us all. What a crap ending, and what a bad way to sort of palm off a character that could have got a better ending than that. Definitely, she didn't deserve a crappy ending like that. Married to, that's just not plausible, is it? And she didn't even believe it either when she saw the video. So anyway, I can understand that. And this is why it was failing badly at that time. There was a lot of complaints saying that it's showing the same old thing of running up and down corridors and rubbery and wobbly sets and all that business. And the budget wasn't there, obviously, for a reason why they were trying to cancel the show, because they wanted to spend it on drama. Anyway, so Colin Baker was found that he was going to be sort of made a scapegoat in this. So when the trial of Time was finished and done, he got a phone call. Well, it was done before, but I'd say he got the phone call while this was being shown on BBC. JNT says, I've got good news and bad news for you, Colin. The good news is we've got another season of Doctor Who. And he says, oh, brilliant. The bad news is you're not going to be the Doctor. And that was that. Just JNT never backed him. He never did anything. They say that his hands was tied. No, he's a yes man. So in the end, he had no power to do what he did. And doing that hiatus thing didn't help his cause, I'm telling you. It was a waste of time. Because all I said, it got a stay execution. He embarrassed the BBC for doing it. He was expecting to get another job with him as a producer, doing his own show or whatever. They kept him with that promise, so he could stay on Doctor Who, so they can finish him and the bloody fucking programme. So anyway, Colin Baker sadly was made a scapegoat. They asked him to do a regeneration scene. He said no, and I don't blame him. He basically said, F off out of it. I says, I'm not doing it. Not in those words, but that is sort of the gist of it, because he was contacted to do it. Because Colin was in the office earlier when he's speaking to Jonathan Powell, and Jonathan says, look, probably we'd like you to stay on, but we haven't made a decision yet. You know, it's a bit two-faced in politics and stuff like that. So Colin left the office thinking he's still going to be Doctor Who, and then obviously the phone call came in and he wasn't. So that was the end of Colin, and I think that destroyed his career, to be honest with you. I really do. It wasn't a fair assessment of Colin Baker's era as a Doctor. It wasn't his fault. He ran into a load of politic prats. You know, that's what was going on. Michael Grave was a politician type of executive character. Character is what I call him. He tried to compare that with Star Wars. You know, we see Star Wars and all these special. Yeah, but if you've give them a bit more bloody money, maybe they could have done some more magic there. You know, because they did bloody magic with what they had. So at the end of the bloody day, you're full of shit, mate. Definitely full of shit. You just didn't like the programme. You hated it, didn't you? So there you go. That's one of the reasons why the programme was in that situation. Obviously, that with the with the hiatus, J&T was a complete bloody clown, wasn't he? I mean, he's getting his boyfriend to do a record that saved the Doctor in Distress or something like that. What an embarrassment. He talked Colin Baker into doing it, and Colin now looks back at it and says, I wish I never did it. Nicola Bryant was doing the melodies on it and trying to sing, but she couldn't sing a note. She couldn't sing a note in a bag. She was terrible, and it was just basically a get together. Really, it just didn't have the same feeling as Band-Aid, did it? Really, it was like a poor man's Band-Aid, and the record, shall I say, sank without trace. I think it got to number 58 in the charts or so. I don't know. Godfather, if you got one of those copies, please let me know, because they might be collector's items these days. So anyway, all that, and Colin Baker was left out to dry, so poor old Colin. So they had to get another doctor, Sylvester McCoy. We're coming into his era now. He gets the job because one of the producers told J&T that there's a guy that he knows, he's on Jigsaw, why don't you give him a chance? So they went to see him at this theatre he was in. I think it was the Pied Piper, and they liked what they saw, and then J&T asked him back, and so he did his bit. Because Jonathan Powell, who was there, because Michael Gray had moved on, he'd gone, and so Jonathan Powell was left with the albatross he called Doctor Who round his neck, and so he insisted that Sylvester McCoy take a screen test. So what J&T did, got two lesser actors, nothing to demean them or anything, they just weren't known, and he got them to do the screen test, and then they put Sylvester McCoy, and then basically he went to Jonathan Powell, said, this is the best one out of the three. So Jonathan Powell agreed. So Sylvester McCoy got the job anyway. So that was J&T being a little bit clever there. So anyway, Sylvester McCoy goes into the role, and already he's under fire because he looks like a tramp or a hobo. He just looks like, I think there was too much comedy in it at the beginning, too much humour, too much this, too much that, and the monsters were crap. But it did have Kate Amara in. She was in it before, remember, a couple of years back. She played the Rani, a female Time Lord, a renegade, obviously, equivalent to Morbius or something like that in her field. Anyway, she does the she brings it to life with a bit of glamour, and he had Wanda Vetten in it as well, so there was quite a few famous actors in there, but it still didn't help the show itself. It was still struggling. Then they got Andrew Cartmel in to do the writing because Pip and Jane Baker weren't up to it. Nothing to do with them, it wasn't their fault, they just weren't up to the kind of standard that Doctor Who needed to reach if they were to reach those audiences, so they needed decent writers. So they're trying one out every week, you know, to see which one would be good, but it's very hard. And then on top of that, Suard and J&T went their separate ways, and J&T was not allowed to use the last episode written by Robert Holmes. Sadly, Robert Holmes passed away, and Eric Suard went to J&T, said, look, he says, if I can't use this, I'm walking. And J&T says, we can't use it, and that was it. He said he had to rewrite it because what Eric Suard wanted to do, and Robert Holmes, sadly, who passed away, wanted to put the Doctor, as it was Trial and Time Lord, on a sort of cliffhanger where he was is in some sort of explosion. Does he survive or something? And J&T didn't like that idea because he felt that could be the end of the programme. But J&T says he insisted on a happy ending. That's what it was all about, happy ending. So J&T got his way. So it was a happy ending, you saw, and there was no sort of conclusion to it, you know, at the end of the Trial Lord. He just says, I know where we can go. We can go to Black, you know, that's Blackpool, obviously. And they were going to do something with a Celestial Toymaker then, you know, and Michael Gough would have played him. But it just didn't get off the ground. The scripts are ready to go and everything. So anyway, that's that. That was with Colin Baker gone, and sadly the show was in trouble, big trouble. I felt that it was never going to get any better, but there were some glimpses that it was improving because Andrew Cartmel brought a fresh stream of ideas to the programme, so that was good. But the only other problem was it just looked so dated compared to what was going on at the time on other channels. And I felt that Jonathan Powell really didn't want the programme to go on anymore. So what he did was he put it up against Coronation Street. We're getting in, what, 17 million viewers, 20 million, I don't know. It was at its prime at that time. And he deliberately scheduled it to put bloody Doctor Who against it. And I thought, this spells death for the programme. It's not going to make it. And that's how he got his way on executing the programme. That's how he got it off. No word of it coming back. It just went with Survival, the last one. Sophie Aldred was the final assistant, of course, and that was it, really. That's how they got rid of it. So when I return, I will go through part 3. We'll go through the Paul McGann, and then we'll move on to the new Who. Yeah, okay then. Thank you for watching. I won't be long with part 3. Join me for that. Bye for now.